So today I ventured forth to Blackpool, which in the off season is actually perfectly fine, and I was able to park freely. And I was there to try and visit two shops. One was Brooks Collectables. That was not open, even though Google said it was going to be, and I couldn't see any sign of life or any sign of opening times, so I gave up on that. And instead, I spent my time in i.Collectables, which I've seen on a couple of other YouTube videos, and I felt I needed to go and have a look around it myself. And I was very glad that I did, because the sheer amount of stuff in there was just mind-boggling, and it probably took me a good hour just to sort of have an initial scan around everything. And there was Star Trek, there was Harry Potter, there were Lord of the Rings, there was wrestling, there were Power Rangers, there were Funko Pops by the shelf load, aliens, predators, anything in between, and far more comics than I was expecting as well. And in terms of eras, we're talking about sort of 1990s onwards. Now those Clark's dolls, I actually picked up a Jane Silent Bob, Mark Hamill, and I don't normally go for action figures, but I could not resist it because it always makes me chuckle, that scene where Mark Hamill suddenly appears randomly as a completely different character but with a lightsaber. It's just hilarious. Jane Silent Bob Strikes Back, love it. I didn't buy everything I was going to buy. I was very controlled. I didn't get the Diamond Select stuff that I was looking at because it would have been way too expensive, but really nice to see it in the flesh. Lots and lots of Star Trek stuff. I did pick up some Eagle Moss sort of standalone ships, which I will do a separate video or two on, because I wasn't intending to get any more Eagle Moss stuff, but at those sorts of prices it would have been rude not to. So I'll add those to my Eagle Moss unboxing collection in due course. But as you can see, Star Trek Next Gen, the Playmates figures were around, some more modern Star Trek figures were around, Heroes figures, Matrix figures, sort of plush dolls. What else was there? Got another Sequest DSV figure, picked another one of those up. Because I'd seen that, I glimpsed that in a video that another channel had done, Adventure Collect, and I was right, I had seen it, I hadn't imagined it. Gotham figures, Ghostbuster figures. I'm recording this after the fact because it was so quiet in the shop that I would have sounded like this random bloke monologuing. They did know I was filming. Obviously, I'd asked for permission to film after I'd sort of browsed and shopped, and then sort of started filming a little bit just to try and give you an idea of just the sheer scale of what's in there. Got Warcraft, Warhammer. It's just big Star Wars figures, 12-inch Star Wars figures at the top there. You've got Micro Machines, you've got Muppets. Racks and racks of really nice sort of 90s comics, and I've picked up a few of those as well. Seriously going over any sort of budget I might have had in mind, really, but such is life. So Star Wars Micro Machines, and those X-rays ones there that I'm not actually familiar with. I did see the odd one or two that I was familiar with. Didn't see any Babylon 5 in here, unfortunately, which is one of the things I was thinking might have turned up, because sometimes you see the B5 figures. But one fatal error I did make was I didn't make a note of kind of everything I currently have before I got there. I was looking for an Asbats, so that's Azrael as Batman, with his armored Batman mode on. I know it exists, but they didn't seem to have one. But I did pick up a nice tiny little figure of Azrael in his original red armor, because I've always quite liked him as a character. Just the general sort of styling of him is I've always sort of quite appreciated. Now, this is a rare example just there of loose figures. Most of the stuff in the store is actually carded, so that means you are going to pay a little bit more for it. but it does also mean that you get stuff that is sealed, which hasn't been played with before for the most part. So if you want effectively old but new, you could do far worse basically than coming in here, because at least you've got it to see it. So rather than eBaying it and wondering kind of where it's coming from, you can see it and pick it up straight away. And huge amounts of Star Wars figures here. I'm not that well up on my Star Wars figures and sort of aging, but there's all sorts of stuff around of sort of the modern eras there. So the modern sort of Mandalorian figures are in there as well in the mix. Various Black Series ones there as well, you can see. So I mean, really, you could spend, and I did spend a good couple of hours, because the parking was free. Because it was so quiet, I was able to just park on the streets around, just keep sort of move the car a couple of times to avoid any sort of ticketing issues. But dead easy, and the shop itself was really quiet. I mean, I smiled quietly when some kids were coming in and sort of oohing and ahhing at everything, because that was quite nice. But there is a lot to ooh and ah at. There's no two ways about it. I was asked if I needed any help with anything as soon as I stepped through the door, and I just explained that I'd sort of arrived because of YouTube videos, which they were clearly appreciative of, because it's not really the sort of store you would think to look for in Blackpool unless you knew it was there, basically. So, for them, obviously this is just sort of advertising for them, I guess, but it's not without justification, as you can see, because there is just so much stuff in here. There's Star Trek graphic novels there by the bushel load, Power Rangers action figures, and these are sort of big action figures. They're not tiny little things, and a lot of this is somewhat out of the era that I'm familiar with. As you might know from my retro toys playlist in general, normally I go for stuff that's slightly older than this, but there are some older bits and bobs in here. So like the Sequest ones, I've picked up an example of that recently because that's kind of within my threshold, and I do like Star Trek stuff, and there was there's a really good range of Star Trek ships in there. A lot of the Eagle Moss ships in there, a lot of smaller ones certainly. So if you had a hole in your collection, it might well be worth having a look there rather than getting scalped on eBay. Because I believe they might be coming back into back for sale again, but I don't know for how long and to what extent. Got some Space Precinct figures lurking in the corner there. I think the odd RoboCop figure was there as well. Yeah, there he is. And just lots and lots and lots of stuff. And you'd have to sort of move stuff around and really have a good sort of dig to make sure you weren't missing stuff. And I don't really mind that, but I mean the store is big. There were sort of about five full rows, floor to ceiling, of merchandise in there. So you got some big sort of superhero figures there. Transformers section as well. I mean, the vast majority of the major franchises are represented in some way, shape or form. You've got Terminator there. Very, very little that you couldn't pick up there. But as I say, it's just that I think the sort of time periods that they cover are such that they obviously prefer stuff in boxes. I'm guessing these are old, if not warehouse stock, then I guess, sort of shops shutting down and clearing stock because there's so much box stuff. They're obviously not getting people bringing in loose stuff quite so much, although I think they do that as well. So they definitely do buy, but I think perhaps they sort of just draw a line at some point in terms of the stuff that they'll take in. There's a bit of sort of horror, a few horror bits and pieces there as well. They've also got, as I said, I think I mentioned that they do wrestling as well, so there are various wrestling figures and some belts and stuff in as well. And we're going to come around the corner to a He-Man section in due course as well. I think that was modern, or sort of like the sort of the Revelations series He-Man stuff. Some Fortnite figures down the bottom there. I mean, this is exactly why I took this video. This is only me just using my phone in my hand. But I just wanted to try and remember what on earth was there. There were Dark Crystal models as well, which were really nice. More Eagle Moss there. Lord of the Rings section. Got a big Lord of the Rings section actually. Yeah, so here's some more wrestlers and the Masters of the Universe section I was talking about. So I'm hoping on a big screen you'll be able to pick out a lot of the detail, on this for yourself if you're interested in anything here. They do have a website as well, so I'm sure you could go to the website or give them a ring, if you want to make a query about anything. I'll try and pop that link in the description of the video. Lots of Batmobiles, all the sort of 60s era Batmobiles there in multiplicity. Was that Nightmare Before Christmas, possibly? QC 2000 AD comics. I've got quite a few of those still, I think, lurking somewhere. All sort of form of the collected comics, basically. They had a really good stock of comics. I mean, again, they've got sort of wrapped up Star Trek novels there from years gone by. It's just, it's a smorgasbord of stuff. It really, really is. But as I say, the only thing is that if you're looking for really sort of retro stuff, which in fairness it doesn't say it is, I kind of rather assume that it would be, but it really isn't, because of course you've got a lot of stuff that isn't, sort of massively retro, which is still old, but it just isn't in the sort of normal ballpark of what I go for personally. But it doesn't mean you won't be interested, obviously. You've got Angel, Buffy, there was Doctor Who stuff as well, Walking Dead stuff, just nigh on everything you can possibly imagine. So if you fancy a trip to the seaside, and a trip in a tram, get some rock, and possibly buy the rock from here. I don't know, but you've got a lot of options in this store, and it's pretty easy to get to. Motorways are good. There's a railway station right in town. Wouldn't be too much of a walk from there. You just have to walk down a bit to get here. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm showing you that these are all the sort of the main rows in the store here, just so you can have more of a gander if you need to have a sort of a look at them. But you can see the sheer volume of stuff that's in there. It's mightily impressive, so I do recommend.